all of our ma'sumin salamullahi alayhim in particular events, but nowhere is there a comparison between the significance of those ziyaras and the ziyarah of Arba'in of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Even if we were to compare Ziyaratul Arba'in of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and Ziyaratul Ghadir of Amir al-Mu'minin salamullahi alayhi, even that, there is no comparison. Nowhere in the ahadith from Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam does it say that one of the signs, one of the definite signs of a mu'min is this particular ziyarah or that particular ziyarah, other than the ziyarah of Arba'in of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. When we look at the tragedy of Ashura, when we try to delve into the events of Karbala, it is very important for us to look at the chronology of events that occurred that led to the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam wa alaykum salam, and also the aftermath of Karbala. We know, for example, Imam Hussein alayhi salam left from Al-Madinah al-Munawwara towards Mecca al-Mukarramah 4 months prior to the Hajj pilgrimage. We know that the reason why he did so was to avoid any bloodshedding inside the holy city of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. On the 8th of the Hijjah, we know that he left his Hajj pilgrimage. He abandoned his Hajj pilgrimage and changed it from Hajjatul Islam to Umrah Mufrada, and left Mecca al-Mukarramah again to avoid blood, the shedding of any blood inside al-Haram al-Makki, because there was an ongoing persistence from Bani Umayyah la'anahumullah to pledge allegiance to the Mal'un Yazid. We also know that Imam Hussein alayhi salam made it very clear that he is not going to succumb to the pressure given to him by Al-Da'i ibn al-Da'i. Now, I'm probably certain that you have heard the quote given by Imam Hussein alayhi salam, where he had said, "Ala inna al-Da'i ibn al-Da'i قد ركز بين السلة والذلة وهيهات منا الذلة." Ad-Da'i in the Arabic language basically means illegitimate child. This could be in reference to Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, it could be in reference to Yazid himself. Whatever the case may be, we know for a fact that none of them came from a legitimate birth. One of the things that did occur on the day of Ashura was the trampling, the stampeding over the blessed body of Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi, tracing back the lineage of each of these people that took a direct participation in the killing of Imam Hussein or anyone else. None of them came from legitimate birth. None of them came from noble families or even families within wedlock. And that's why, as Muslims, we know that one thing that we hold very, very strict to is a child being born inside of wedlock. Maybe the couple might not be that religious, but when it comes to something to do with waladul zina, this is something that is very much admonished, something that no one would like to be a part of. And that's why, one of the worst insults for someone to accuse another person of is in them being, for example, from illegitimate birth. We know who Hind was. We know the whole story of Muawiyah. This is mentioned in all Sunni narrations that Abu Sufyan refused to allow Hind to give birth in his house. Hind had to deliver Muawiyah in a stable with the animals, out of him knowing that the product of her pregnancy was not from Abu Sufyan. Who would reach that level of shame and disgrace in them being able to participate in the likes of attacking of Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam or Imam Hussein? And that's why Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, he said to Imam Ali salamullahi alayhi very, very clearly, Ya Ali, la yuhibbuka illa mu'min wa la yubghiduka illa munafiq. One hadith says, or another hadith it says, وَلَا يُبْغِضُكَ إِلَّا وَلَدُ زِنَا أو وَلَدُ حَيْض, the child of zina or hayd. Now this is because that whole atmosphere of spirituality is going to be absent at a time where a person becomes wicked and wretched. Who would have that level of lowliness that would allow them to reach such a stage? When Imam Hussein alayhi salam said, this illegitimate child, son of an illegitimate child, has cornered me, قَدْ رَكَزَ بَيْنَ السِّلَّةِ. As-silla means to unsheath your sword. Salla as-sayf means unsheathing your sword. بَيْنَ السِّلَّةِ وَالذِّلَّةِ. Yani I have two options. Option number one is war, to unsheath my sword, and option number two is humiliation, for me to be humiliated and give bay'ah to this tyrant Yazid. وَهَيْهَاتْ مِنَّا أَذِلَّةِ. And far be it that we ever humiliate that ourselves. Imam Hussein alayhi salam continues on and he says, not only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would refuse this, not only would Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi refuse this, but even the mu'mineen would not allow humiliation for anything else. And that's why the slogan that we have, alhamdulillah, all the time is hayhat minna adillah. We do not succumb to pressure or degrade ourselves or humiliate ourselves. Why? Because you have sold yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your owner is God, and God doesn't allow you to humiliate yourself in any level. With Imam Hussein alayhi salam making that very clear, he left Medina for this purpose of awakening the Muslim Ummah. He left Makkah al-Mukarramah for this purpose of awakening the Muslim Ummah, and traveling towards Kufa. This was the slogan that he had. I'd like to touch upon some important, relevant historical events that occurred from the time of Sha'ban until the Arba'een of Imam Hussein, being as quick as possible and also trying to cover some important points that we need to learn. Hopefully they will benefit us as modern day Muslims trying to adhere to the message of Karbala and Ashura and Imam Hussein alayhi salam. When Imam Hussein, peace be upon him, left Medina, how many people were with him? Did the number of people from the time of leaving Medina until the arrival in Karbala, did it diminish? Did it decrease? Was it in fluctuating from time to time, or did it stay at one number? One view is that the number of people that were with Imam Hussein when he left Medina al-Munawwara was 5,000 people. And slowly, this became less and less and less. People were enticed by Yazid's army. They were filled with many dunyawi temptations, and that's why when the Qafila arrived in Karbala, there was only a very short, small number of people. The second view is that the same amount of people, the same number of people that left with Imam Hussein in Medina was the same number that stayed with him on the day of Ashura. The only fluctuation that could have been was with 7 or 8 people whose names have been clearly mentioned, and they have an exemption from Imam Hussein alayhi salam himself, or the story of the Safir of Imam Hussein, Muslim ibn Aqil salamullahi alayhi, who was given the order by Imam Hussein to prepare the grounds for his arrival in Kufa. In my opinion, through my research, we can understand that Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi was very, very selective. He had not announced publicly that he is going for battle. He did not issue, in our expressions of today's world, he did not issue a fatwa for jihad. He did not say, Ya mu'minun, everyone please join me, I am going to fight against Yazid. This was not the case. Never did Imam Hussein alayhi salam want to participate in a military uprising. If he did, what was the meaning of him bringing women and children? The purpose of the uprising of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the objective was not that of a military type, it was that of a humanitarian type. Imam Hussein alayhi salam wanted to awaken the hearts of the mu'mineen at that time, the hearts of the Muslimin at that time, the hearts of the rest of humanity at that time. If you have one level of humanity left in you, if you have one recollection of what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi had given to you, then stand against oppression. You don't need to join me all the way to Karbala, but stand against oppression. And that's why Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when he left to Mecca, he said, Man kana badhilan fina muhjatah, whoever wants to sacrifice their soul with us, muwattinan ala liqa'illah, insisting on meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, falyarhal ma'ana, then join us. فَإِنِّي رَاحِلٌ مُصْبِحًا, inshallah, I will be leaving tomorrow morning by the will of Allah. Nowhere does he say, I give you a command, I order you, or anything else. In another statement, when he was speaking with the tribe of Bani Hashim, من الحسين بن علي إلى بني هاشم أما بعد فإنه من لحق بي منكم استشهد. Directing his talk to Bani Hashim, whoever joins me will be martyred. ومن تخلف لم يبلغ الفتح والسلام. And whoever does not join will not acquire that level of victory. He is not saying whoever does not join me will not be among the mu'mineen, whoever does not join me will this or will that. Yes, we know that whoever heard the cry of Imam Hussein alayhi salam on the day of Ashura and did not participate in defending the blood of Imam Hussein, 100% in Jahannam without doubts. Some people came to Imam Sajjad alayhi salam and said, Ya ibn Rasulillah, we were in the army of Umar ibn Sa'd, but we did not throw any spear, we did not shoot any arrow, we did not unsheath our sword. Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam said to them, لَقَدْ كَثَّرْتَ السَّوَادَ عَلَيْنَا. You have increased the number of enemies against us. Of course, there's no justification for this kind of attendance. They had weak nufus, they did not have a firm stance, and therefore their excuses is unjustifiable and unacceptable. What happens if there were people who were, or were there people who were mu'mineen, righteous individuals, but were not there in Karbala on the day of Ashura? Yes, there were. Kufa, for example. Why did Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam choose Kufa as his capital? If we see Kufa to be such a bad, evil place, why did Imam Ali alayhi salam choose Kufa? Why did Imam al-Mahdi Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu al-Sharif why has Imam al-Mahdi chosen Kufa to be his capital when he reappears? If we keep on saying Ma ahla Kufa nistim Ali tanha namanat, always we hear this slogan of Kufans, Ya ahla Kufa. Even the Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam, when she said when she directed her khutbah, she directed it to Ahl al-Kufa. Or Shi'atul Kufa, she said. For example, Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam also said Shi'atul Kufa. Are they referring to the Shia, yani me like me and you, the Shia of Kufa, or the people of Kufa? Why is it when we hear, for example, Imam Hussein alayhi salam and other Imams, they have said, Ya Shi'ata ala Abi Sufyan. Does that mean Abu Sufyan had Shia? No, what does Shia at that time meant? Even in the Quran, وَإِنَّ مِنْ شِيعَتِهِ لِإِبْرَاهِيمِ. Even in the Quran, the word Shia is used sometimes in the positive, sometimes in the negative. Imam is used sometimes in the positive, sometimes in the negative. Shia meant the followers. Now the technical meaning for Shia, of course, has taken a different way. Or even Sunnah. What does Sunnah mean? Are you a Sunni? I'm a Sunni. You're a Sunni. We follow the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. And that's why our ulama, they say the correct terminology is Madrasatu Ahlul Bayt, yani the Ahlul Bayt school of thoughts, Madrasatul Khulafa. Because that's the madrasa that they took. That's the ideology that they adopted. They didn't adopt the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. That's why there's a famous scholar by the name of Tijani. He says, he has a book. The title of the book is Ash-Shia Hum As-Sunnah. The Shia are the Sunnah. So, yes, if we want to be precise in our terminology, we need to understand why is it that there are certain times where there is harsh talk against the people of Kufa. Number one, it wasn't the people of Kufa. Number two, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, the governor of Kufa, had imprisoned so many Shia, there were no longer any local Kufans in Kufa anymore who were not in jail or killed. And that's exactly again why Imam Hussein alayhi salam, his journey was towards Kufa, not towards anywhere else. Why didn't he stay in Al-Madinah al-Munawwara? Why didn't he stay in Makkah al-Mukarramah? For 10 years, Imam Hussein was under the reign of Muawiyah, and he didn't do anything leading some kind of uprising or anything else against Muawiyah, but there was a purpose, there was an objective that Imam Hussein alayhi salam wanted. And that's why Imam Hussein was very, very selective. And that's why there were people who unfortunately, because of a justifiable reason, did not participate in the battle on the day of Ashura. One of them, next week inshallah, when you commemorate the Arba'in of Imam Hussein, you will frequently hear the name Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari. Where was he on the day of Ashura? Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, one of the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, lived a very long life. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi had told Jabir, Ya Jabir, you will stay alive until you meet my grandson. His name is the same as my name. Convey my salams to him. يَبْقُرَ الْعِلْمَ بَقْرًا. Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salam. يَبْقُرَ الْعِلْمَ بَقْرًا means he will pierce through knowledge as quick and as effective as can be. And convey to him my salam. Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari was killed by Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi, one of the governors of Bani Umayyah at that time. Why didn't Jabir participate in the battle of Karbala? We know the answer is that he had lost his eyesight. Where was he? He was journeying from Mecca towards Karbala, but had not reached on time. He was the first of those who did the ziyarah of Imam Hussein on the day of Arba'in. Now, unfortunately, we need to remind our brothers and sisters the significance of Ziyaratul Arba'in, the significance of knowing these pieces of information. Why? Every once in a while you are going to hear a wave come and try to knock you down. Very recently, unfortunately, we hear some stories here and there of some sheikh or sayyid or this or self-promoting, self-claimed scholars who try to bring about confusion, saying, oh, well, just recently I heard, unfortunately, someone saying that this walking towards the shrine of Imam Hussein is one of the greatest of innovations of the 20th century from among the Shia. It's a carnival. That's a very insulting word to anyone. Comparing the ziyarah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam to a carnival. Even if you saw it to be as such, don't say it in a very, very sensitive time. At least, have that level of respect. It's very similar to you having a Hindu neighbor and inviting him for beef burger. You wouldn't do that out of respect for that person. You might have an opinion for yourself, but we need to be very, very selective in the choices of words that we make. And also, me and you, we need to be equipped with information. When we come across certain things, we need to look at things not only in its relevance to what happened at that particular time, but how it's going to affect us as Muslims, as Shia, as followers of Ahlul Bayt in today's society. That's why we need to look at Karbala on a historical level. We need to look at Karbala on a meta-historical level. When we look at Karbala on a historical level, we understand the chronological events that occurred. On the 10th of Ashura, this occurred. On the 11th of Ashura, of Muharram, this occurred. On the 12th of Muharram, this occurred. And also on a meta-historical level. And that's where we understand كل يوم Ashura wa kullu ardin Karbala. Wherever we go, we are able to relate to the tragedy of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So, the Shahada, when Imam Hussein, peace be upon him, said, whoever is with me will be martyred. There are individuals who were with Imam Hussein alayhi salam, but did not get martyred. Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam is one of them because of the duty that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has appointed for Imam al-Sajjad Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, because of there being a greater purpose for our fourth Imam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prevented Imam al-Sajjad from martyrdom. Imam al-Sajjad lived a very, very long life. One of the wrong things, the wrong approaches that me and you might have subconsciously is anytime we remember Imam al-Sajjad, we remember him to be the sick person of Karbala. That's wrong. That's wrong. Let's say, for example, Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam was sick. How long were they in Karbala? 5 days, 6 days at most. Maybe he could have been sick for 7 or 8 days at most. Then he was held captive, of course. What about the rest of his life? Imam al-Sajjad was the most active, socially active of our Imam alayhi salam. And that's why Imam al-Baqir salamullahi alayhi, he says, when I was doing the ghusl of my father Imam al-Sajjad, I saw a wound on his back from the amount of times he would go around the city of Al-Madinah with holding food and supplies for the people of Al-Madinah al-Munawwara. That's being social. If he was alil or sick, he wouldn't have been able to do any of this. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Baraniga salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Another example is Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah. Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah, I'm very sure you've heard of his name before, and I don't know what my time limit is. What time is Salah here in Canberra?
10 to 8.
10 to 8, okay. Inshallah, I won't take much more of your time. Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah is the brother of Imam Hussein, the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. His mother, her name was Khawlah al-Hanafiyyah. To distinguish Muhammad from the other sons of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, they referred to him as Muhammad al-Hanafiyyah. Muhammad al-Hanafiyyah was not a normal person. He was the flag bearer of Imam Ali in the Battle of Siffin. The same status that Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam had in relation to Karbala, Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah had in relation to the Battle of Siffin. Where was he on the day of Ashura? Where was Abdullah ibn Ja'far al-Tayyar, the husband of Sayyida Zainab alayhi salam? Two of Sayyida Zainab salamullahi alayha's sons were martyred on the day of Ashura. How about the husband, their father? Where was he? Where was Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah? Are we quick to make judgments and denounce? And even, unfortunately, I have seen this with my own eyes on certain satellite channels, even curse Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah and al-Mukhtar because apparently they were absent on the day of Ashura. Why are we so quick to pass judgment and not be fair and understand things on a historical level? You know, when you look at the likes of, for example, Shaykh al-Mufid. Shaykh al-Mufid, and I do advise all of my brothers and sisters to read Shaykh al-Mufid's book on history called Kitab al-Irshad. Kitab al-Irshad is a 2-volume book. Half of it is on the life of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and the second half is on the life of the rest of the 11 Imams. Kitab al-Irshad. Shaykh al-Mufid, as you know, was very close to the era of the commencing of the major ghaiba, al-ghaiba al-kubra. And he was in Baghdad. He is buried in the holy shrine of Imamain al-Kadhimain. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you all the opportunity of doing ziyarah of Imamain al-Kadhimain alayhi salam. And Shaykh al-Mufid was such a high-ranking person. He had mukatabat, he had letters with Imam al-Hujjah ajalallah ta'ala farajah al-Sharif. So much so that the letters that he received from Imam al-Mahdi were signed by the Imam. This is extremely rich. This only happened maybe to 2 or 3 of our other ulama during that time. So this is not some normal person that we are talking about. When he praises the likes of Al-Mukhtar or Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah, that should not be taken lightly. One of the objections that there is that Al-Mukhtar had chosen Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah as the Imam and not anyone else. Did Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah claim to be the Imam? Did Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah claim to go into ghaiba? Absolutely not. How about Al-Mukhtar? How about the other movements that occurred post Ashura? Were they favored by our Imams? Were they things that our Imams alayhim salam objected to? This is something that really we need to look into and research. Yes, our Imams alayhim salam did not physically participate in these uprisings, whether it be that of Al-Mukhtar or Al-Shaheed Zayd or Al-Tawabin. But did they object to these, outwardly object to any of these movements? That their objective was to seek revenge in the atrocities that were endured by our Imams alayhim salam, in particular Imam Hussein on the day of Karbala. When we look into this kind of information and understand all of these things, it will give us that cohesive knowledge of what we need for the whole philosophy of Ashura and Karbala. And that's how it will become relevant for us today. 11th of Muharram, Umar ibn Sa'd and his army were busy, occupied by burying their dead. They did not allow the remaining members of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam to bury anyone of the Shuhada. The 12th of Muharram was when the Qafilah of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam were forced into movements, including Imam As-Sajjad salamullahi alayhi. However, due to a mu'jizah, a miracle, Imam As-Sajjad was able to return back and participate in leading the burial of the Shuhada of Karbala, because it was Bani Asad, the tribe of Bani Asad, who came and buried the Shuhada of Karbala. Now, this information is important for us because it will give us a correct understanding of the demographics that existed at that time, especially with this whole issue of who were the people of Kufa. What was our understanding of how that was? And we know for a fact that a ma'soom cannot be buried or washed or shrouded with kafan unless by another ma'soom. Only a ma'soom can wash and bury another Ma'soom. What did Imam Hussein alayhi salam did he need to be washed or shrouded? The answer is no. Fiqh-wise, we know that for a shaheed, if the shaheed is killed on the battlefield, they are buried with those clothes that they were killed with, and also there is no ghusl and there is no kafan, there's no takfeen. However, if the shaheed is killed outside of a battlefield or injured in a battlefield, but the wound is not that severe where he's killed, where he dies on the battlefield, but he dies in, for example, a hospital or at home, he has the level of shahada, he is a martyr, he is a shaheed, but he is washed, fiqh-wise, he is washed and also takfeen as well. 12th of Muharram is when Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam and Bani Asad participates in the burial procession of Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi. It took them 3 days, the Qafila, 3 days to get to Kufa. This is when the humiliation started. This is when Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam delivered her second khutbah. When was her first khutbah? On At-Tall al-Zainabiyya. If you've been to the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, right next to the shrine of Imam Hussein, there is another small shrine called At-Tall al-Zainabiyya. Tall is the small hill. That's when Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam stood there and delivered her first khutbah to the army of Yazid. The second was in Kufa. Who was in Kufa at that time? Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. The third time was on the 1st of Safar in Sham, in Damascus, in the palace of Yazid. This is where everything trembled. This is where everything changed. This is where even the very family members of Yazid started to despise Yazid himself. But the sad thing here is the qafila, the captives of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the family members, the remaining family members of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, they were not allowed to enter Damascus. They were not allowed to enter into the city of Sham for 3 days. They were held outside for 3 days. And this was to fulfill certain objectives. Number one, some more humiliation. Number two, Yazid had given the order that everyone wear the best of their clothes. And number three, that the whole city be decorated because it is a celebration. The celebration, and this is how they were introduced as Al-Khawarij. These are the remaining family members of Al-Khawarij. Just try to picture this. The grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, his family members, the remaining members of his family, and they are treated in such a way. They are treated with so much humility, in such a level, paraded from town to town, from city to city. And for what purpose? For what objective? What was the gain that Yazid and the enemies of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam wanted to do? One of the things that they had said was Dafnan Dafna. We are going to bury. Dafn means burial. We are going to bury the very name of Ahlul Bayt, the very memory of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. But the third khutbah of Sayyidah Zainab and Imam al-Sajjad trembled all of this. That's when everything started to spiral down. One of the things that we know, that occurred during this time was Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. He had seen one of the people who was a sympathizer. And he asked the sympathizer, do you have any money? This person said, Ya ibn Rasulillah, what do you want money for? You know, you're in a very, very difficult situation. You have blood coming down from your neck because of the chains around your neck. Why are you asking for money? Imam Sajjad alayhi salam says, pay that person who is holding the head of Imam Hussein on a spear and ask him to stand in the front and not in the middle. Imam Sajjad alayhi salam asked this person, he said, why would you want this, Ya ibn Rasulillah? Why do you want me to pay this person to stand in the front of the qafilah and not in the middle of the qafilah? Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, he said, because I want people to be distracted. I want these people who are looking to be distracted and not look at Zainab. I want them to look at the heads. Let them look at the head. I don't want them to look at the women of Karbala. And that's why when we ask Imam Sajjad, what is the most difficult thing that you endured throughout this whole event, this whole saga of Karbala, the martyrdom, the killing of Abu al-Fadl, the decapitating of the head, the severing of the head of Imam Hussein, Sayyidah Zainab sitting there on the plains of Karbala, heading towards, facing her head towards the skies, saying, Allahumma taqabbal minna hadha al-qurban. What was the most difficult thing that you are enduring? Was it the time when Zainab came to you and said, what do we do, Ya ibn Rasulillah? You are now the hujjah of us. What are we to do? And Imam Sajjad said to her, Alaykunna bil firar, run away. They are pillaging you. They are ripping the earrings off the children's ears. They are burning the tents. Run away. What was the most difficult thing? Imam Sajjad said, Ash-Sham, Ash-Sham, Ash-Sham. That was the most difficult thing that Imam Sajjad alayhi salam had to endure because of Sayyidah Zainab standing there. Why was it that was so difficult? Her, As-Sukaina, Ruqayya, all of these people having to see Yazid playing with the blessed head of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in his palace. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين والحمد لله رب العالمين. يا حسين يا حسين